since all of the stuff with his, with his daughter and all the racial stuff.
Did you feel bad for him?
Just when everyone thought the feud between The Undertaker and Hulk Hogan was long over, shocking new footage surfaced online showing the two WWE legends in a tense moment before Hogan's death. The heat between them was tied to a chaotic incident from 1991, and here are the full details. It all began on November 27, 1991, at the Survivor Series pay-per-view, when the wrestling world was buzzing as The Undertaker, only 1 year into his career, challenged the legendary Hulk Hogan for the WWF Championship. This wasn't just another match, it was billed as the gravest challenge, and at just 26 years old, The Undertaker was on the verge of making history as the youngest WWF champion at that time. What happened next, however, created a wound that never healed, a betrayal so deep it poisoned the relationship between the two icons for decades. The match itself was intense, lasting 13 grueling minutes as the Titans clashed until Ric Flair slid a steel chair into the ring, leading to The Undertaker delivering a devastating tombstone piledriver onto the chair and securing both the victory and the championship in what looked like a triumphant moment. But as The Undertaker's knees hit the mat, something happened that would haunt him for years, because Hulk Hogan whispered words that shattered the young wrestler's confidence, saying, "Oh, you got me, brother, my neck and my back." And The Undertaker later described the lasting psychological damage those words caused.
I am much like, how, I'm like, you have all these, like, I was 24, 25 years old, and, I just crushed Hulk Hogan, right? That's what's going through my head. Like,
Can you imagine the horror of a young wrestler thinking he had just seriously injured the biggest star in the business, the golden goose of wrestling? The weight of that responsibility was unbearable, but the truth is that it was no accident at all. It was a carefully planned setup. The warning signs had been there right from the start, and The Undertaker would only realize much later how deeply this moment was meant to shake him.
So I remember getting there about noon, and Hogan was already there. And I'm walking down the hall.
Red flag number one.
Red flag number one, right? So he goes, "Hey, kid, can I talk to you?" Right? So we go into one of the locker rooms, into the shower, right? That's where all the business was always done.
Hulk Hogan, who normally arrived at arenas around 4 or 5 in the afternoon, showed up at noon, hours earlier than usual, and this was no coincidence but careful preparation. In the shower area, away from the crowd, Hogan began delivering, his performance setting the stage for what was about to unfold.
So he's telling me, he goes, "Hey, I got this neck injury." He says, "I'm really nervous about taking your finish." And I was like, "Hulk, believe me." I said, "I will protect you. I pride myself on not hurting people. And I promise you, I will have you so tight that there's no way possible that you're going to hurt your neck."
By the time the match began, The Undertaker was completely focused on protecting Hogan, and when the moment came, he executed the tombstone with absolute precision, making sure nothing went wrong.
Every point during the day, I'd pass him in the hall or whatnot, I'd get the, remember about my neck, right? So that's all I got all day was my neck.
The instant The Undertaker's knees touched the mat, Hogan launched straight into his act, pretending to be hurt and setting the dramatic scene that would change everything.
Pick him up, and when I tell you I had the brother secure, he was secure. Boom. I give him the tombstone.
The backstage drama carried on as Hogan was rushed away, and The Undertaker stood by watching what he truly believed were real medical examinations being performed.
So here, me and kayfabe, right? So I go behind a wall with Shane. Me and Shane are behind the wall, and I'm having to, listen to, can you feel this? Can you do that? And then I hear somebody get my wife and kids on the phone.
The psychological trauma was overwhelming, as this young wrestler genuinely believed he might have paralyzed one of the biggest stars in wrestling. Just 6 days later, The Undertaker was forced to drop the championship back to Hogan at this Tuesday in Texas, and the tragedy grew even heavier because he wasn't able to immediately review the footage that could have cleared his mind.
You watch it back, you can tell his head never touched. And so now I'm in this precarious situation, I'm still a greenhorn, right? I mean, and now I've got to confront, the face of wrestling the biggest draw, ever.
Hogan's weak excuse became the final insult, a bitter lesson that completed The Undertaker's harsh education in the politics and manipulation of the wrestling world.
Finally, I got to San Antonio, and I was like, Terry, I watched it back. Your head never hit. He's like, well, brother, what it was you had me so tight that when we came down, I had nowhere to move.
This moment marked the beginning of a Cold War that would last for decades, as The Undertaker realized that Hogan was not the hero he pretended to be, but a manipulative politician willing to sacrifice others for his own gain. And the seeds of animosity planted that night grew into something much larger and more devastating than anyone could have imagined. The aftermath of 1991 created a fascinating dynamic between the two icons, a Cold War that stretched across years, with The Undertaker's approach evolving from a devastated rookie into a calculating professional who maintained a facade of respect while never forgetting the lesson learned. And as his experience and stature grew, his perspective shifted into strategic understanding. But this wasn't forgiveness. It was survival, and the phrase, "I knew all I needed to know about him," became a defining moment that marked the death of his innocence about the wrestling business and the birth of his legendary ability to read people, ensuring that every future interaction with Hogan was shaped by this knowledge. By the early 2000s, the balance of power had flipped completely, with The Undertaker as locker room leader while Hogan's influence faded. And at Judgment Day 2002, The Undertaker defeated Hogan decisively for the undisputed championship, a symbolic moment proving that he had not only survived Hogan's manipulation, but surpassed him. And he even admitted to finding satisfaction in Hogan's later struggles, a moment of schadenfreude that revealed his human side and showed he never forgot the humiliation and betrayal of 1991. So when Hogan later struggled with simple tasks like performing a motorcycle entrance, The Undertaker couldn't help but feel satisfaction at the reversal of fortunes. The revelation of Hogan's character becomes even more powerful when you remember that Hogan was the one who introduced Mark Calloway to Vince McMahon, with Hogan himself present when Vince created the Undertaker name. And yet within a year of giving him this career-making opportunity, Hogan betrayed the young wrestler's trust in the most devastating way possible, which makes the irony staggering, because the very character Hogan helped bring to life would eventually eclipse him, becoming the moral center of WWE and the wrestler that others respected and admired, everything Hogan pretended to be, but never truly was. The contrast between them became even sharper over time, as Hogan, who preached to children about saying their prayers and eating their vitamins, developed a reputation for manipulative backstage politics, while The Undertaker, who portrayed darkness and death on screen, was known as a mentor, leader, and genuinely good man behind the scenes. And this contrast finally exploded in public on January 6, 2025, when what should have been a triumphant moment for Hogan turned into one of the most uncomfortable scenes in WWE history, as he appeared with Jimmy Hart at the Netflix premiere of WWE Raw to promote his Real American Beer, only to be met not with cheers but with a chorus of boos that echoed throughout the wrestling world and sparked a fierce conversation about legacy, accountability, and the true meaning of heroism in professional wrestling, making it clear that this was no ordinary negative reaction, but the culmination of decades of disillusionment. This was a sustained and visceral rejection from a crowd that represented a new generation of wrestling fans who had access to information, who understood the full scope of wrestling history, and who were no longer willing to separate the performer from the person, and the moment was captured on video and went viral immediately. Yet what truly revealed the depth of 3 decades of animosity was The Undertaker's reaction, because when asked about Hogan's humiliating reception, his simple and measured no when asked if he felt sympathy spoke louder than any long explanation, showing that even a man known for professionalism and respect toward veterans had no pity left for Hogan. When pressed further about whether he felt bad for Hogan, his honesty made it clear this wasn't cruelty, but the result of 30 years of experience and understanding. And The Undertaker explained that modern fans now have access to information past generations didn't, which has completely reshaped how they view wrestlers like Hogan. The once carefully constructed image of the all-American hero telling kids to say their prayers and eat their vitamins has been replaced with the more troubling reality of who Hogan truly was behind the scenes, and The Undertaker pointed directly to these truths as the reason fans turned on him, offering the most insightful perspective about how today's fans connect with backstage reality in ways that expose hypocrisy. Still, despite everything, The Undertaker remained remarkably balanced, giving Hogan credit for his professional accomplishments while making a clear distinction between career achievements and personal behavior. And this nuanced view showed exactly why he remained respected while Hogan's reputation suffered: the difference between a politician protecting only his self-interest and a statesman considering the bigger picture. Then, on July 24, 2025, the wrestling world was shaken when Hulk Hogan passed away at age 71 at his home in Clearwater, Florida, after suffering cardiac arrest, with emergency services responding at 9:51 a.m. and transporting him to Morton Plant Hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 11:17 a.m. The timing was poignant, just months after his final public appearance at the Netflix Raw debut, where he had been booed, a moment that would stand as his last wrestling-related event. In his final months, Hogan faced serious health challenges, including major spinal surgery in May 2025. And though his wife denied rumors of decline, his medical history told a different story, with around 25 surgeries in his final decade, leaving his body broken down from wrestling. WWE issued a formal statement mourning his loss, calling him one of pop culture's most recognizable figures who helped bring global recognition to the company in the 1980s, while tributes poured in that reflected his complex legacy, from Ric Flair expressing both shock and gratitude while recalling Hogan's financial help during a family crisis, to political figures like Vice President J.D. Vance and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth recognizing his broader cultural influence. Hogan's wrestling accomplishments remain undeniable, as he headlined 8 of the first 9 WrestleMania events, served as the face of WWE during its critical expansion, set a U.S. television record with 33 million viewers for his match with Andre the Giant, held the WWF Championship for a record 1,474 days, and captured the WCW World Heavyweight Championship 6 times, achievements that Dave Meltzer summarized as proof of his unmatched significance in wrestling history. Overrate Hulk Hogan's importance in wrestling history, as he sold more tickets to wrestling shows than anyone else in existence, and IMDb ranked him as the biggest draw the business has ever seen. Beyond wrestling, his reach extended into mainstream culture, with appearances on the covers of Sports Illustrated, TV Guide, and People magazine, co-hosting Saturday Night Live, starring in a CBS cartoon, and becoming the most requested celebrity for the Make-A-Wish Foundation during the 1980s. Yet behind the fame and glory, the Hogan family dynamic told a much darker story. Brooke Hogan's decision to go no contact reflected her effort to protect herself and her children as she sought therapy to process the damage. But Linda Hogan complicated matters further by denying the seriousness of Brooke's claims, dismissing her daughter as a narcissist and accusing her of drinking while downplaying instances of physical harm like a broken collarbone and a cut lip, a pattern of denial, deflection, and counterattack that mirrored the tactics Hogan himself used with colleagues who challenged him. Linda, who was married to Hogan for 24 years until 2009, also accused him of multiple affairs and described him as a sex addict, citing his affair with Brooke's friend as the breaking point that led to her filing for divorce. This cycle of manipulation went public through the reality show Hogan Knows Best from 2005 to 2007, which Hogan used to control the family narrative while exposing them to public scrutiny, with Linda later admitting that the show only deepened family tensions, proving that Hogan was using media as a tool to normalize control and mask dysfunction under the image of a caring father. His personal life was riddled with betrayals, perhaps most disturbingly with Bubba the Love Sponge Clem, who had been a close friend and even the best man at Hogan's wedding, but their friendship ended in disgrace after the infamous sex tape scandal. Bubba later revealed in an interview that Hogan lived with him during one of the lowest points of his life and exploited that friendship, a manipulation that not only destroyed their bond, but left permanent scars. All of this casts new meaning on The Undertaker's blunt reaction to Hogan's public rejection, because his lack of sympathy was never about cruelty, but about wisdom gained from decades of watching Hogan's actions, showing that integrity, respect, and character matter far more than fame or manipulation. Wrestling, like life, is built on choices, and Hogan's choices shape not only his own legacy, but the careers and lives of countless others. While The Undertaker's story proves that betrayal can be overcome and turned into a foundation for respect and leadership. The viral footage from 2025 that reignited their story revealed more than just animosity between two legends. It highlighted the gap between image and reality, between the character Hogan sold to the public and the man he truly was. While The Undertaker stood as an example of what happens when integrity guides your path. In the end, championships and money don't define legacy, but how we treat others and the respect we earn through actions. And on that measure, while both men shaped wrestling forever, only one will be remembered as a true champion in every sense. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click on the card showing on your screen for more stories like this.